Once upon a time, deep in the enchanted forest of baseball analytics, there lie hidden treasures. A player dismissed as ordinary, but destined to be the league winner. Today, dear listeners, we unearth these fabled sleepers on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Arne. You can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Arne. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, most importantly to Matt and I, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience through through text message alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And guys, this time of year, we're giving out rankings, sleepers, what we're doing today, bust, breakouts, just so much more than you can get here in this episode. So make sure you join us on Subtext, where you can get the link in our bio. And today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And all right, Matt, this is always a fun one. I love doing these kind of episodes, and I know you do too. And we're talking sleepers. And Matt, before the episode here, we were having an interesting conversation on what actually a sleeper is. So Matt, why don't you take the wheel here and kind of just continue where we left off, because I think we were having a fun conversation.
Yeah, so Dom and I were talking about whether sleepers actually exist because of all the information out there and things like that. And ultimately, I kind of feel like there's still some shots at getting some sleepers, whether it's guys that you really weren't paying attention to because they were mid-round pickup, mid-season pickups or late-season pickups that you kind of think might have some upside or can be thrusted into a position to actually produce for fantasy. Some of these guys are wide awake because it's more of a wide awake sleeper situation where you're going to know a lot of these names and it's oh, they're not really a sleeper. But ultimately, these are guys that are probably going to going later in your drafts that I think we should be taking shots at, right? Because all you want at the end of the draft is pretty much lottery tickets. So these are going to be your lottery tickets. A couple of names are going to probably debate on whether they're actually sleepers, bounce backs, or, more of going in towards a breakout candidate. And, we'll kind of go through there. Dom, you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, so I'll kind of touch back to what we were talking about before we started, in the sense of, like you said, a lot of these names you might have known or heard of, but in today's day and age, I think what a sleeper is has changed. I think if you've played fantasy baseball for 10 years or longer, you remember the days where at the end of your draft, somebody might just throw out a name that you've never heard of or that had no buzz or hype. And you kind of just might have scoffed at it and brushed it off, and it wound up being a great pick. An example I'll give you guys is, Jose Abreu, a buddy of mine 10 years ago when Jose Abreu was first coming out, took him with his last pick. A lot of people didn't know who he was, and that's a great sleeper pick. And like I said, today's day and age, if you're listening to a podcast or doing the research or, there's just taking advantage of any of the information that's out there, you might be familiar with these names and have heard of them. Be like, oh, yeah, I know that guy, good pick. And I think it's becoming harder and harder to come up with names that nobody's ever heard of. So you know what, Matt? Why don't we just hop right in? You want to grab the first guy? You want me to take him?
I'll take it. So first guy is Nolan Jones of the Colorado Rockies. You guys are probably looking at us like crazy. Like I said, is he even a sleeper? Is he a bounce back player? He's a little bit of both. He kind of floats in both because what's going to make him a sleeper is everybody's going to want to try to avoid him like the plague. The season he had on top of the injuries since, he decided to hang out with Chris Bryant all season. And
that's what it was.
Yeah,
he's hanging out with Chris Bryant too much. I love that.
Yeah, literally okay, hey, how could we be more twinning? Oh, let's get the same back injury. Let's do it. That's it. But, outside of that, it just wasn't a great season for him overall. So hey, this is what kind of makes him fall down into the sleeper category. Because he's not the sexiest pick anymore, not coming off the 2023 campaign. And he's also a guy that I also think is going to bounce back. So this is where we're at right now, right? Like let's break it down. Like the season was not impressive at all. Like we're gonna go and talk about it right now. Like he had 297 at bats, so pretty much played a little bit more than a half a season, and essentially had 28 runs, 13 doubles, a triple, 3 bombs, 28 ribs, 5 stolen bases, batted 227, an OBP of 321, a slug of 320, an OPS of 641. Like these are ugly stats. Like especially for a guy that paced out over 367 at bats the year before and had 20 home runs through that time, and it was batting, a nice 297 through that time. This is a truly like other side of the coin, kind of like all out meltdown, nuclear facility explosion in terms of, how things can hit the fan. And that's what went wrong for Nolan Jones. Things just did not add up. And, the underlying stats really weren't helping him either. Everything looked ugly. The average exit velocity was down, the barreling, the launch angle, the bat speed, how, everything just kind of fell apart. Whereas you look at the year before and everything was way up, right? His average exit velocity was like at 90 miles an hour. This year it was 88, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. 88.2. Like the ex Wobo was massive at 362. His slug was at a 499. He was barreling 15.7% of the time. The hard contact is actually the only thing that kind of went up. Like, and when I say that, the percentage of times he's actually been able to create hard contact, and that was up at 44%, a whole 10% higher than the year before. It's the only positive note out of this season. And you kind of got to look at it like this. Okay, at least he was doing that, right? Which kind of gives me some indication that, okay, there's next year. He made an improvement in how he's making contact and the quality of contact essentially at that point. But other things kind of just fell off a cliff. Where I'm going with this is a guy that performed as well as he did in his rookie season, essentially, right? Because like I'm not going to really count the 2022 season at all with 86 at bats. It was really 2023. A guy that had that kind of season doesn't just fall off a cliff like that, especially at a young age of 25 years old, 26 years old. So it's coming to a point where you just got to look at it and go, okay, Nolan Jones should be back. He's going to come at a really nice price versus I think he was going in the 5th round this year. I think he's probably going to.
He was coming off the board, pick 53 overall by the time everything's said and done.
Right. So like you got to look at that now. He's probably going to go well outside the top 100, probably into like, the mid 100s, probably around 150 to 170 range. And that's where the value comes in. He's not even going to be a utility for you. He's going to be a bench player. And I'm willing to take that all day long. So keep an eye on Nolan Jones' draft price and spring training because I have a feeling he's going to be a great price come this year.
Yeah, Matt, I kind of just want to pick up literally where you left off there. That's to me what a kind of like the modern day sleeper is, right? It's a guy that where people aren't paying attention to the way they should be. Like I'll give you my example for last year was kind of like a Marcell Ozuna, especially in Yahoo leagues where he had the outfield eligibility. He just was being severely overlooked. And I think Nolan Jones is kind of going to be like that last year, like this year, outside the top 100. Like you said, plays for Colorado. That power that he has is going to play. Matt read you off the underlying stats from 2023. I think the back injury had a lot to do with the underperformance this year. He hardly was on the field when he was. I watched a little bit of Nolan Jones this year. The swings look bad. So I'm telling you that back injury was bothering him all season long. Nolan Jones is a 30-30 candidate. I'm just going to be honest with you. He truly is. He put up 2020 in 2023 in 106 games, 367 at bats. You give him another 150, 160 more at bats. That's 30-30. With the batting average is going to play in cores as well. So I think Nolan Jones is going to be a great sleeper for next season. Before we move on and talk about guys like Zach Neto, Jason Dominguez, and we have some really great starting pitchers. Stay locked on because those names and more coming up next.
Okay, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place a live bet on the NFL all in one place. So when you have a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page you place all your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And guys, make that $5 count with betting against our lovely Giants today. Being that we're actually live, I can give it to you. The line looks great, and I already did post it, so I could actually tell you the bet I have today. Unfortunately, it's not going to come up late, so you know what? Just DM me because this is going to take too long. But ultimately, bet low on everything. But guys, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Are you watching Fox Sports ESPN on your TV all day? Have you had to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or free on the Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As this offseason unfolds, rely on our content to help you win your leagues. You're going to get our not our waiver wires, our redraft rankings, our dynasty rankings, our prospect rankings, our sleepers, breakout, busts, so much more than what we can offer in this 30-minute podcast, even if we're coming at you 5 days a week. So check us out. Links in the description below. You get a free 2 weeks. Check us out. We're coming at a reasonable price. Trust me. The price you're going to pay to get in here is going to be way cheap in comparison to what you're going to win at the end of the year. Check us out. But Dom, please, my friend, take it away.
Yes, sir. So let's get right back into it. This is an interesting name. I want to talk about Zach Neto here. He had a strong year. He had a strong year, but it came in bits and pieces, right? So let's just do the numbers first. At 23 years old, Zach Neto this past season had 602 plate appearances, 542 at bats, in 155 games with 70 runs, 34 doubles, 23 homers, 77 RBIs, 30 steals, and he hit 249. So I'll give you guys little tidbits since you're here with us. I have Zach Neto ranked as my number 11 shortstop next season. I think that I'm not sure where he's going to go, right? This is the fun part of doing this episode this time of year. We genuinely don't know where people are going to be drafted, so we're kind of just throwing our darts. He could be somebody people are really on. When you look at the underlying stuff, though, right? So this is what I think the experts are going to see, and they're going to back off. The underlying stuff doesn't look great for Zach Neto. He didn't hit the ball hard. He's swung and missed a lot. He didn't barrel up the ball well. So I think a lot of the experts are going to see that, and they're going to be like, you know what? We're going to take a step back from Zach Neto. But I look at what he did in bits and pieces at 23 years old in the major leagues, right? I'm looking at his month-by-month splits. In May, had a strong month with 26 games played. He had 5 doubles, 4 homers, 7 RBIs. He stole 4 bases at 284. And then in July, had 2 homers, 8 steals, hit 279 in 24 games, right? So there was times where he played very well, and I like the progression he made. Overall, did only hit 249. I think people might see the 2030, and that's going to get them excited. So that's what I want to see. I want to see if people are as excited as I am, because I think this kid at 23 years old showed off some pop, showed off some speed, and I think it can play. I think the underlying stuff might live up to it next year. So, at 24 years old, I hope we're going to get some good value on Zach Neto next year. If we do, I'll be in on him for sure.
Yeah, I like Neto. I think he's more of almost like a right on the fence of almost like a breakout.
Because I agree with that. I do agree with that.
Because you see what he was doing, and yes, it did come in stints. Like some months were absolutely putrid, and you didn't even want to own him. And other months, it was like,
exactly.
But even his bad months though, it came in weird scenarios. It was never like a perfect month, right? So a month that you could really highlight is June. He had 5 home runs, 20 ribs, 3 stolen bases, but he was batting 239. And then you look at again, in August, he had 7 home runs that month, but he was batting 235. And he also brought that with 6 stolen bases and 19 ribs and 5 runs. No, I'm sorry. More than that. 13 runs. He has stints where he was super valuable. We brought him up on the waiver wire show because he wasn't highly owned. I think if he could put it together where he's just consistent, which I think is definitely in the prospect pedigree is all there for him. Netto is somebody that like we could be waiting, be drafting him for a pretty great price, and then being an everyday contributor, an everyday starter. So I wouldn't be surprised. And the way he started off spring too got me all excited and hot and bothered for him going in. So I think next year, we're gonna have to keep an eye on him. Obviously, he may not be the price. Like it may not be in a really unreasonable price where like we're just gonna have to take him, and that's what's gonna make him fall into this category. But let's talk about Jason Dominguez. So first off, screw you, Aaron Boone. Verdugo has no business playing in the World Series. It should be Dominguez. Dominguez has all the explosion power in the world, and why haven't we given him the game time, experience that this kid needs to develop? I understand we're going after a World Series championship, but to be honest, where has Verdugo been? Has he even been that much better that oh my God, he has to play over Dominguez? Okay, but enough with real life baseball. Let me talk.
Yeah, right. Everyone's just gonna call us angry Yankee fans, Matt, and we're gonna have to own it.
I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean, it's also too like look like Dominguez is somebody like we both love as a prospect, like, and
love him.
And it's not because he's a Yankee. No, like Dominguez is a serious talent. If you're not familiar with Jason Dominguez playing for the Yankees, let me just bring you up to speed. I don't know where you've been. You're probably new to fantasy baseball, but in 2023, he had a phenomenal season. 456 at bats. He had 89 runs. He had 22 doubles, 3 triples, 15 bombs, 76 ribs, 40 stolen bases. He batted 265 on the season with an OPS of 802. This kid is awesome. Like, let's put it this way. And on top of that, the little stint he had in 2023 when he got the call was absolutely electric. Unfortunately, he fell to Tommy Johns and wasn't able to play until this season. Otherwise, he probably would have been on the roster all year. The kid was absolutely incredible. That little stint. 31 at bats, 6 runs, a double, 4 bombs, 7 ribs, a stolen base, and was batting 258 with an OPS of 980. The kid is an electric player. He has all the ability to be a 5-category contributor. This is why I'm mad too, because I think he would also put us over the edge in the playoffs. But anyway, you got to look at it like this. Going into 2025, how am I approaching him in my drafts? I'm drafting him everywhere. This is going to be a kid that's like a sleeper, but he's going to be kind of somebody that's probably going to be skyrocketed through to the top because now everybody knows this kid's going to be here. He's a top 10 prospect. So he's probably going to be more like the 120 to 100 range in terms of, and it depends on also how electric he is in spring training. So Jason Dominguez,
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Right. So keep him in the back of your head. He's not a name you want to forget this time of the year. He's somebody you want to keep following and kind of to see how much you could talk yourself into drafting him, because I promise the second you start looking, it's only going to get better.
Yeah, Matt, I don't want to spend too much time on Dominguez because we certainly do agree, but I just want to speak upon why I think he's going to be a sleeper going into next year, right? And like you said, unless he comes out in spring training and just looks dominant. Here's the thing with Dominguez, right? This past season, he played 18 games. He only hit 179, 2 homers, 5 steals. Looked nice. But I think a lot of people are going to see that. And then, like you said, Dominguez isn't playing in the playoffs. So I think a lot of people are going to see the numbers from this past season that he's not playing in the playoffs. And I'm just hoping that he comes out and makes the team in spring training, right? I don't want him to have a monster spring training. Dominguez just do good enough to make the team, and then that's where the value is going to come in, right? Because once again, when I'm thinking of a modern-day sleeper, I'm thinking of a player that might not be on the tip of everybody's tongue, and that we're going to get good value on. And I think Dominguez might fall into that category. But I want to sneak one more name in here, guys. I want to talk about Tobias Myers, right? So I think this is the name. This is the guy that when we're talking about sleepers for next year, I don't think he's going to have a lot of hype around him. I think we're going to get great value on him. Tobias Myers had a breakout season this year at 25 years old. He had 25 starts. He had 9 wins. He had a 3 ERA in 138 innings, 127 strikeouts, and a 117 whip. So I don't think Tobias Myers is ever going to be a strikeout master, but I think he plays for a team like the Brewers that develop pitchers like Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, etc., guys like that, so they know what they're doing when it comes to starting pitching. And I don't think Tobias Myers is going to be much different. He doesn't have elite stuff, but he knows what he's doing. He knows how to pitch a game. He gets good results. He can go out there on a given night and have a 10 strikeout game, if his stuff is really working for him. And he does have good stuff, right? His, 4-seam fastball got hit at a 239 clip, which is good. He uses that 40% of the time. He averages 93 on that. It has good movement. The cutter is where the problem is, right? Tobias Myers cutter got hit at a 336 clip. He threw that 22% of the time. Just switch that up. Throw that slider more. Tobias Myers' slider was great. Got hit at a 198 clip. Threw it 21% of the time. Looked really good. Even his changeup, which he threw 11% of the time, was great for Myers. Got hit at a 038 clip. So Tobias Myers, there's stuff there, right? The pitches there are there. He's 6'1", 217. He's got a good build on him, and like I said, plays for the Brewers. Very good with starting pitching. I'm gonna have me a lot of Tobias Myers because I know we're gonna get good value on him next year.
Yeah, and coming up next is how I feel about Tobias Myers and whether I agree with Dom at all. It'll be coming right back after this.
Guys, want to talk about Prize Picks? It's the best way to get in the action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money, sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play your $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off and which players aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. All right, Matt, let's jump back into it. What do you think about Tobias Myers?
So he's interesting. I like the arsenal. The arsenal is pretty impressive, right? Four-seam fastball, cutter, slider, changeup, curveball, and sinker. And he throws them at 4 pitches at a pretty decent distribution, right? 40% on the fastball, 22% on the cutter. The slider's about 21%, and then the changeup about 11. Then the curveball about 4, and then sinker really not really, but at least it's there. And you know what? I gotta say, it's pretty interesting, right? Like he actually has good results on everything but his cutter. That's getting hit at like a 336. Other than that, like the four seams sitting at 239, especially for the amount that he threw it. The slider sitting at 198. The changeup is sitting at 0.83. So it's a good mix, and it's something that not a lot of young pitchers have, and he's getting great movement on his stuff. Obviously, what I want to see from him next year is this. Average exit velocity to take a dip. That's sitting at 89.8 miles an hour. Okay, that's what we call a batter having elite exit velocity at that point, right? That's where they get the red on Baseball Savant. I want to see hard hit. I want to see more ground ball production, and I want to see even lower barrel and a little bit more whiffs. That's what I'm hoping to see out of Tobias Myers in 2025. So what I'm thinking is he's going to be interesting. He's going to be somebody that I'm definitely going to want to take a shot on that I think is going to be overlooked completely. Dom made all great points about how they, build up their pitchers and things like that. So all those things can be attainable there with that team. So he's going to be interesting. Somebody I'm definitely going to want to take a shot on. But this next guy here, Reese Olson, who I feel at least is, honestly like a waiver wire darling, in my opinion, last year, because you picked him up and he was absolutely awesome for you when you did. It just wasn't fully there, but the season was good. And I think this is where we kind of are on the borderline of whether he's actually going to be, a sleeper. I think he might be on somebody that's unfortunately might fall in that category because of not only did he show out throughout the playoffs and all season, his stat line is going to catch some eyes, right? You look at what he did last year and he had, 4 wins, a 3.53 ERA. He had 112 innings pitched and 101 strikeouts with a 118 whip, all solid numbers. Fastball is sitting right under 95 miles an hour, 94.2. He's getting good movement on his breaking ball and fastball. All speed pitches need a little bit of work. Was getting the whiffs, wasn't really walking guys, wasn't allowing guys to barrel up, and was producing ground balls, which helped supplant the hard hit contact that he was giving up 43% of the time. What I'd like to see from him next year is a little less creation of hard hit. As long as the ground ball sticks, I'm not going to be too scared. So for me, I like Reese Olson for next year without a doubt, and he does have a decent arsenal as well. He has a slider, 4-seamer, changeup, sinker, and curveball, and he throws 4 pitches at over 20% of the time. So he definitely does a really good job of mixing up his pitches and has a good pitch mix. And that's what's going to make him successful for next year, that I'm going to like him to be able to pick him up. I just hope the cost doesn't get out of control. This is where we're too early to see ADP. But if he's sitting there at like my pitcher 5-ish, 6-ish, I'm not mad at it. I'm not ready to deem him a pitcher 4, but he has the upside to also finish as a pitcher 3. So that's kind of like the realm of possibilities because of the maturity in his game and his pitch mix and the step forward that he's taken.
Yeah, man, I'm just going to chime in because I agree on Reese Olson. He plays for a good team. The Tigers are very good this year, very competitive baseball team, and that's a great park to pitch in. And as you mentioned, he does throw 4 pitches over 20% of the time. I think he just needs to figure out which ones are working and which ones aren't. He had great results with the fastball last year. It didn't translate this year. So I think as long as he moves those around and figures out which ones are working, because they do work for him, I think he has great potential. You know, like I said, I think SP5, SP6 is where he's going to land for most of us. So let's jump on and talk about this next guy. Let's talk about some Austin Wells, another New York Yankee. He finished the year kind of rough, to be honest, but there were spurts where he was very, very useful. I'll read you off the full season numbers for Austin Wells. He played 115 games, 354 at-bats, 42 runs, 18 doubles with 13 homers, 55 RBIs. He had 47 walks to 87 strikeouts. You love to see that. And he hit 229. So I think that's where things are going to be left to be desired with Wells in his career. In the minors, he had luck with batting average. I don't know if it's going to translate to the bigs. But Austin Wells is 6'2", 220. He's a big guy. There is power in that bat. You don't necessarily see in the underlying stuff, in the bigs this past season, but he's still only 24. He's going to be 25 next year. He's going to get, there's no questions to his role next season. I think he's going to be the full-time catcher with the New York Yankees. He hit 17 bombs. Austin Wells, that is who we're talking about here in 2023. He had 17 bombs in 96 games. In 2022, in 92 games, he had 20 bombs, and he's got a little speed on him too for a catcher. I think he could be a JT Real Muto-ish kind of guy. So, but without, an elite batting average, I do like me some Austin Wells. As far as rankings go, I have Austin Wells as my 12th catcher for next season. So I do like him. Let's see where the value takes him going into 2025.
Yeah, no, I everything you said is honestly spot on. I really not much I can add other than the fact that too, when he's playing, he's actually getting put into a position to be successful. And he's hitting higher in the lineup than Trevino, who's playing tonight. So there's actually some serious upside just in that, and the fact that he's being trusted in the World Series to hit higher in the lineup. Like, I think correct me if I'm wrong, he was hitting 5 or 4 or 5.
Yeah, no, they've been. That's the thing too. Like you said, Matt, they trust him. They trust him behind the Judges and the Sotos. Especially if Soto comes back next season, which I hope he does. Wells has a lot of opportunity for RBI, and he hits for power.
Yeah. So, ultimately, I like Wells for next year. I think that he's going to be a great pickup, and he's going to be one of those guys that we're going to be targeting at the end of the draft. Because if you're familiar with us, on our draft strategy, we always go later on catchers. So he's going to be one of the guys that we're going to be looking that is going to be overlooked, and we're going to be the ones snatching and grabbing, and he's going to have a full-time role. Probably get more at bats than most catchers out there anyway. Because Austin Wells, I think when he got the call, for him to have 354 at bats already, and he got called up halfway through the season. That's nearly almost that's at least 4 days a week, and that's much better than most of the catchers out there. So all about it, Austin Wells for next year, guys. We do have one more, but unfortunately we don't have the time. So I want to say thank you for being here. Thanks for joining. Hopefully you enjoy the live show. We might try and do this a little bit more often. We'll let you know. But guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to help this podcast grow, because we love you and we want to keep providing this content for you. And guys, since you love us so much, I promise you'll at least like our boy Sully on Locked On MLB. He's covering the World Series. The only reason I say that is because I heard he was rooting for the Dodgers. So,
yeah. I didn't know that, Matt. I don't know if we could do it anymore. But yeah, I'm just joking. Yeah, you gotta go check Sully. Yeah, he does great work over there. I'm just messing around.
Check out Sully. He actually does give really great breakdowns of it and great commentating. So check him out. Guys, with that being said, peace.
See ya.